Hello everybody, welcome to another video by the Airborne Horse. Today we are in Xplane 11 with the A320 made by Flight Factor. And we're going to have a look at getting this airplane from cold and dark to a before sort of taxi setup, I suppose. I've given you a QRH you can have a look at, so we've got the normal procedures as per the Airbus FCOM, which you can follow along with, and we're sort of going to just read through and emphasise a bit more of the points as we go. And hopefully we can give you some more information as to what you're doing, more rather than just pressing the buttons as you go through this checklist, if you actually go through the checklist. But there's a lot to it. The first time you go through it, there's a fair bit of information to sort of figure out and work out, but it gets better as you go along, and you can end up getting through this procedure within a good amount of time. It should only take about really 20 minutes to get this airplane set up and ready to go. But the first time we have a look at it's going to take a good 45 minutes, an hour, double that. We'll see how we go. We're going to try and explain things fairly thoroughly as we go, and if you have any questions, feel free to send me an email, let me know, and we'll try and clear things up as we go. So you'll find the link in the description below, the Google Drive, which has the PDF file for the QRH that we're going to reference. QRH stands for Quick Reference Handbook, and every time we go through the preparation we pull out the QRH and just reference it so I don't forget anything, even though after doing this so many times you do tend to learn the procedure verbatim. So let's get in and have a look at this thing here. So this is the A320 on the ramp at Chicago O'Hare. All details aren't really that important. We're not going to go anywhere in this sort of video. We're just going to get the airplane to a point where we can finish our load sheet, push back and sort of depart. We're not going to look at setting up the FMGC, I suppose, either. We'll leave that for another video. We're just going to look at purely the system setup at this point here. So first few points in our QRH here. Firstly, looking at the QRH, we've got the normal procedures section here, Airbus training A320 up the top. Obviously have it out as we talk things through here, so it'd be a good idea to open up the PDF file now so I can talk to you about it rather than showing it on the screen. And straight away we can see with this checklist we've got safety exterior inspection as the first procedure, and this procedure is divided up into duties of pilot flying and pilot not flying. So the first duties for the pilot not flying are the safety exterior inspection, and we've got 3 items here which we have to have a look at, and this is before we get into the airplane. So we're looking at the wheel chocks. We've got to check that they're there. The landing gear doors, we've got to check that they're positioned. The landing gear doors are here. They're closed at the moment. That's important, because if they were open because of any reason, hydraulic pressure loss, any maintenance issues or anything that's happened while we've had the aircraft unattended, you have to check, because when we apply power to the aircraft we're going to start moving gear doors when they receive pressure, so that we could hurt somebody or damage equipment. So it's important to note the position of the gear doors. And the APU area at the back of the plane here, we've got to check that it's clear, because we're going to start spitting hot exhaust gas out the back here when we start the APU as well. So once all those things are checked, you can head up the stairs into the airplane. And this is how you'll be greeted with a cold and dark Airbus A320 cockpit. So you get right started with the aircraft setup part of the QRH now, or the preliminary cockpit preparation as it's titled in the QRH I provided for you guys. So first things we look at here are the engine masters 1 and 2. So this is all stuff we're doing before we apply power to the aircraft, and these are all make sort of sense, because if we have these in the wrong position, applying power to the aircraft could make an instant change of the aircraft state, or provide power to a system that we otherwise want to be turned off at the start of the flight. So engine masters 1 and 2, we want those to be off, and the ignition start mode selector to be, the engine mode selector, you want that to be in normal. So what that's covering there, say these are in ignition start, if we apply power to the aircraft now, there's a chance that those engines could start while we're not ready for it. We're going to have doors open, we have ground personnel out there possibly loading bags, so we definitely don't want those to be out of position. So we check that there. That's interesting that that made a noise given the aircraft is unpowered. Go figure. Anyway, weather radar, we check that this is all off. This isn't simulated in this aircraft here, but we're just making sure all the switches are off, and the gain controls at auto or cal, and the tilt's +5 degrees. Again, that's another thing, you don't want to be powering the weather radar when you're sitting at the terminal here and you've got building out in front of you, possibly people you could hurt. It's unlikely, but it's just precautions that we're covering off there. Landing gear lever, this is an obvious one, you want to make sure it's down. You want any chance that by powering the aircraft that the landing gear might self-retract while you're sitting on the ground. Yes, there are systems in place to prevent that from happening, but it's happened. So, landing gear lever down. Both wipers also need to be off. Obviously you don't want to drag a dry wiper across a dry windscreen. That's going to cause damage and scratch the shit out of the windscreen. So wipers need to be off. Alright, now we're going to do the battery check and setup. There is a procedure to check that the batteries have enough voltage in them, and there's a procedure to charge them if they don't, but because we live in a sim world, the batteries are always in pristine condition. There's not too great a point of checking them, but the important thing is they need to be above 25.5 volts, which they are, and if they weren't, you'd apply the procedure to charge the batteries. So at this point here, we have to consider, has the aircraft been powered in the last 6 hours? We're going to go with no, it hasn't. We just got to a cold aeroplane first thing in the morning. The aircraft hasn't been touched overnight. So we're going to check the voltage, check it's above 25.5, and we're going to connect up the batteries. So we go option here, if the battery voltage is above 25.5 volts, which it is, battery push button and battery push button 2, auto. These ones here, press once, wait, and press again, auto. And if the avail light is on for the external power, we turn that on now as well, which it is, so we use that. Turn the ground power on, and the aircraft comes to life. Now we're going to look at starting the APU. That's the next thing on our list, so we're going to be starting the APU. We have to check a few things. We need the systems display up first, so we have to wait for the self-test to complete. We're going to first test the fire suppression system on the APU, because you don't want to start the APU if the fire suppression system isn't going to work, so we test that at every flight. Let's wait for our screens to display. So what we're going to test here, we're going to look for the APU fire warning light to come on. We're going to check the ECAM comes on. We're going to check for the continuous repetitive chime, which is the audio beeping noise, I suppose, when the fire warning goes off. And we're going to check for the master warning light along here. The APU fire light has to light up, and these squids have to light up. So we're just testing all the lights work. The system's going to test itself to make sure it works, so we need to make sure all the indications that we get work as well. So we're going to see something appear here, we're going to see a red light appear up here, and we're going to hear the noise, and we're going to see all these lights light up. So press the test button here, test, hold it down, wait for everything to come up. So we've got APU fire on the ECAM, we've got the red warning light, we've got the APU fire light, we've got the agent and the squib light, and we've got the chime going. So we can release the test button now. Okay, so that's the APU fire test complete. Now we're going to start the APU. It's important if we're starting the APU on batteries alone that you start the APU within the first 30 minutes of connecting up the batteries. Anything beyond that, you're not going to have enough power left in the batteries to start the APU, but we're using external power again. SimWorld is perfect, so we're good to go. So we're going to press the master switch to start. Count to 3 seconds before you press start. 1, 2, 3, start. And then you monitor the start on the system's display here. You don't need to monitor it, it's going to warn us and auto shut down if anything goes wrong with that start. The Airbus is pretty good like that. Alright, time to have a look at the next line here, air conditioning. So we're going to look at connecting up the APU bleed. So we're going to wait for the APU to start first. But some important things to know about APU bleed. We have a warning here that says do not connect the APU bleed when there is ground air connected. A few reasons for that. Damage prevention is the main one, so we're going to have a look at that now. I'm just going to clear this warning here because that's annoying me. No TCAS fault there. That's because we don't have anything powered yet. It's fairly normal for that to come up. Clear all that out. So let's have a look at the air start unit here. So we'll connect that up. This isn't an air conditioning unit, this is an air start unit which provides a different level of air pressure than an air conditioning unit. We can see that here. So we've connected the ground air, and it's connected directly into the pack number 1, which is providing pressure there. If it was ground air conditioning, it would appear, this arrow, white arrow here, would turn green and would connect in and feed in. They give us a warning with regards to using the ground air. They don't like us using the ground air to power the packs. That's the air start cart, so we usually turn the packs off so the pack isn't powered by the ground air. That's just to prevent dirty air getting into the cabin and potentially grossing up the packs as well. So we have those turned off for ground air, and you can see here that we have 46 psi pressure coming in, and that's what we'd use to start the engines if we were going to do an air start, not a air conditioning unit. It can be used for air conditioning if we turn the packs on, so that's going to cool the cabin down now just from pack 1 on only. And if we opened up the cross valve, we could get the air to run the pack 2 as well. But again, recommended not to do so. So close that there. And we'll turn the packs off for this, just for this exercise. At this point here, we can't connect to the APU bleed, which is what the checklist is trying to get us to do. So we're trying to become sort of self-sufficient as an airplane here. We don't want to need the ground air, the ground power, all that sort of stuff, hence why we have an APU. And that's sort of what we're setting up now. So say we came across the airplane, this ground air cart was connected and running, we could see we have to check 46 psi. You can't just press the APU bleed on, you're checking to see if there's pressure in the system. If there is, you have to radio downstairs to the engineers or whoever's there to get them to disconnect the ground power. So we'll do that now. Sorry, not ground power, ground air. So I'll get that disconnected, put our packs back on, and check our SD page here. So there we go, we have no pressure now in our system. There's still going to be some residual temperature, which is slowly going to come down, as you can see, but the pressure is the important bit. That's 0. So now we can go upstairs and connect up the APU bleed. Actually, we'll leave it on the SD page here so we can see what happens. So APU bleed on. We verified there's no ground air and there's no ground air start unit connected. So the APU bleed is going to come online here. It's going to connect in line, start up pack 1 first. And then when that comes online, the crossfeed valve is going to open and it's going to power pack number 2. So you can watch that happen because it's an auto, it does that by itself. There we are, and you can see both packs are being pressurized now, and they're going to provide conditioning to the cabin. Next check for the air conditioning panel here. You can see air conditioning, this whole panel here is air conditioning. We set our temperatures on these 3 selectors here. So the green 12 o'clock position is 24 degrees Celsius or 75 degrees Fahrenheit, and we have a 6 degree range either side. So if we go all the way down here, we'll have 18 degrees Celsius, all the way up will give us 30 degrees Celsius. And the variation for Fahrenheit is 11 degrees Fahrenheit either side, so you go all the way down to, what's that, 64, sorry, and all the way up to 86, 11 degrees either side. And they're just target temperatures. What you're actually going to achieve may be different depending on many other conditions. They're just target, so if you set what you think is 24 degrees, you're not exactly getting 24 degrees, you can just click it down. At least you know that you're going to get towards that way and sort of manipulate it yourself. We've got the pack flow selector here as well, norm. It's not going to make a difference with APU bleed. APU bleed will automatically set the pack flow to high when we're using APU bleed, so that switch is not going to do much while we're using APU bleed only, but it's important to consider low or high when we're running the engine. So when we turn the engines on, if we have pack flow high, that's going to help cool down a hot cabin a lot quicker. And norm is going to be normal and low is going to be low for if we don't need much air demand. It's important because this affects our fuel flow of the engines as well. So if you have a light load and the cabin temperature is quite comfortable, select it to load. But if you need to burn more fuel and get the cabin temperature down, we go to high. But we can leave it in normal for the time being. We also have to check here that all the white lights are out. So say if we had hot air selected here, we have to make sure that's selected at this point, make sure the white lights go out, which is Airbus philosophy during all of these checks, that white lights turn off. Cargo heater fitted, it's fitted, but it doesn't do anything, so we gloss past that. And cockpit lights, so you just go around and make sure your cockpit lights are all set up and ready. So you've got your integrated lighting on the overhead, integrated lighting on the main paneling and pedestal. You've got your FCU lights here, and you just sort of set them up. All about 12 o'clock position, even for daytime ops, because even this one here, you can see our brightness of our radio panel. If we turn it down, you sort of lose brightness on your frequencies there. So 12 o'clock's a good position to leave all those in. And then as light changes, you can adjust from there. We've got a next item on the checklist is the EFB and ACARS if it's installed. It's not installed, but it's going to gloss past this because it's not that important for our simulation here. Again, the next one's the ECAM and logbook checks. So you're just checking on the ECAM here. Press and hold the recall button for 3 seconds. We're just checking for anything cleared. And you can see I cleared the nav TCAS fault before, so that pops back up. And we know we did that, so we can clear that again. It would also show anything else that got cleared in the last flight too. So that's important. Let's say they came in with a fault, for some reason forgot to write it up, or the fault cleared itself and it wasn't a fault when they landed. It's important just to check that so you have an awareness of what the aircraft came in with last. Then we go to prelim performance determination. So we're going to get our weather for our airport here and check that. Everything. We could check our performance figures here, so we both pilots would independently calculate their performance figures based upon an agreed weather situation. So for us here in O'Hare at the moment, we've got wind at 120 at 10 knots, pressure's 1014, and the temperature's 29 degrees, so we'd agree upon those conditions, and we go away and calculate our takeoff data for a particular runway, particular intersection, and a particular configuration if there was a preference there. Then we go to operation engineering bulletins. So these are bulletins that come out from Airbus that tell us if there's a fault in the system for whatever reason, that we have an overriding checklist to proceed before we do anything else. Sort of outside the scope of this video, we can look at that another day, but at this point we would check the operation engineering bulletins and go from there. Then you get to the before walk around part, so one part's about to go outside and do a walk around, the other part's going to stay inside and do some more checks, so we have to check before we go outside. The SD page here again, so we're going to check the oxygen pressure. 1962 psi, we've got the oxygen pressure here at the moment, which is pretty good. The rule of thumb I use is about 1000 psi. Anything below that you sort of want to check your tables to make sure you've got enough oxygen for your flight and flight crew complements. But it'll also warn you as well, it's going to say if the oxygen pressure is half box, so we'll see a little yellow line appear to the left and to underneath in amber, and then it's going to tell us at that point we have to check our oxygen chart to make sure we actually have enough for the flight. So check that one, then we go to our hydraulics page here, and we check that our hydraulics arrows are in the green range here. There's a couple of options if they're not, but pretty much if they're not there, you just check engineering if you're when in doubt. Also, the operation of the cargo door can affect the yellow system as well, because it's got its own electric pump to operate the cargo door, so we'll see if that's going to do anything here. So if we disconnect these guys, see if that's going to affect it. See here, so the yellow system's working, and the fluid system level change too. That's pretty cool that that's simulated. So while the cargo door's moving, the fluid's going to move around the system and the level's going to change. And you can get a PT operating there for some reason. So I'll turn that back on again. So the electrical pump turns on, powers that. And that's what we were saying before about the cargo doors as well. The cargo doors, if they're connected to the yellow system at that point, could actually, some of the cargo doors, the landing gear doors, they could move as well. So this is why it's important to check those landing gear doors before we get up in the cockpit to start moving things with hydraulics. Right, on the engine SD page now, back to the SD page here. Engines, and we're going to check we have enough oil. So oil quantities, these instruments here, 19 quarts. Minimum recommended by Airbus is 11 quarts plus 0.3 quart for every flight hour determined. So for this flight here, we're going from Chicago down to Fort Lauderdale. We're actually doing that, but for the purpose of this flight, we're setting up for that. That's about a 3 or 4 hour flight, so you'd want 0.3 times 4, which is going to be 1.2, and on top of 11, which is going to be 12.2 minimum to dispatch. If not, that's not enough oil to go. So you check that. Clear that off again, close that back down. We're going to check our flight controls here, so we're going to check the flap position of the lever matches up with the flap position on the upper ecam here, so that's good. If it wasn't, straight away call engineering, there's a problem. And the speed brake lever as well, check that it's not armed in the off position, so armed looks like that. We have to make sure it's in the off position and it's not moved. So we stow it there, and we check on the flight control page to make sure there's no just oil deflection there, which it shouldn't be, but you never know with aeroplanes. So again, if there was an issue there, we would be calling engineers for that. Parking brake, we're going to check the parking brake accumulator pressure. That one there, make sure it's in the green arc, and again, if it wasn't, we could run the yellow hydraulic pump to pressurise that system. But because the cargo door did that as well, the yellow system got pressurised, and that should be in the green arc again. Parking brake handle, check that it's set to on. We have a warning here as well, don't apply the park brake with brake temperatures in excess of 500 degrees Celsius, which you would see here, and currently our brake temperatures are at 40, which is quite acceptable to operate the parking brake. And we check our brake pressure indicator, we just check that they're full on for the park brake set. That's the only time we really see those indications move as well. Then the next part's the emergency equipment check. This is a bit irrelevant in the sim too because it's not really simulated, nor does anything ever change, but you're basically going to check that their life jackets are stowed. They live behind the seats here. Let's see if we can, yeah, so life jackets live behind the seat here. Oh, can we do something to this, can we? No, I thought we could. Oh, that's just the armrest. Go away. The axe is stowed, which lives here. Just down there, that's the axe. Smoke hoods and portable oxygen, they live down there. Portable fire extinguisher, you've got to check that it's there and that's in the green arc for its check. Smoke goggles and smoke hood all lives in there. Flashlights are stowed, they live down here. So you've got one flashlight there, another flashlight there, we've got to check that they're stowed. And the escape ropes, which live up in here, we've got to check that they're stowed as well. Then we've got rain repellent if it's fitted. Is it fitted? No, it lives behind the left in here as well. What is this one's claim to be? I don't know what they've modelled here. Anyway, we'll leave that one alone. Then we check the rear and overhead circuit breakers. Again, not modelled, but you're going to check all these circuit breaker panels, make sure nothing is popped out. Landing gear pins and covers. They live down behind the captain's seat here. They live in one of these compartments here. It's all different depending on how the cockpit's set up, but they live pretty much down there most of the time. I didn't realise that open, that's cool. Alright, so that's part of that bit done. So, at this point here, one part's going to go to a walk around. We're not going to cover the walk around in this video, we're going to cover the pilot flying section of the QRH, which you have now. So if you scroll on down to that, up to the cockpit preparation, the PF section. So here again, first thing is gear pins and covers, check. So we're going to check that the gear pins and covers are there as well. So 2 people check the gear pins and covers, hey? Who would have thought? Now we've got a note for the start, so it says during the scan sequence of the overhead panel, all white lights extinguished. So that doesn't mean go and turn off all the white lights now, that means during the scan sequence we're going to turn all these white lights out. So we'll come back to that. So the first part here, we start at our overhead panel, our sort of scan sort of goes up the panel here, across here, up the panel, and then up here as well, and we go all the way up to the back. To this panel here, which we end the overhead scan at. So we'll start. Ooh. Now I've done it. Oh wow, I'm tripping balls now. How do I fix this? Oh, I'm upside down. Oh, don't be sick, I'm sorry. What do I do here? Oh, alright. Sorry about the motion sickness, everybody. We're back. Back to the overhead panel. So, starting here, crew oxygen supply. That should have been off. But anyway, select that in. Ground control, this doesn't simulate it on this panel, but you'd turn that on, you get a blue light appear there, and we do the CVR test. Again, it doesn't work, we're not going to cover it here. The evac, and this is company specific here, not simulated either. This switch would either be captain and purser or captain, depending on company preference there. ADAS, all IR mode selectors to nav, so we're up to here now. So we select these to nav. And we have a couple of different rules here with what kind of alignment we do. But a complete IRS alignment must be performed in the following cases: before the first flight of the day, when there is a crew change, when the GPS is not available and the NavAids coverage is poor, and when the GPS is not available and the expected flight time is more than 3 hours. So GPS is usually available. So you can sort of gloss over those ones, I suppose. You still have to consider it, but you're always going to have GPS coverage, otherwise you've got bigger problems. When there's a crew change or before the first flight of the day, so in this case we are doing a first flight of the day, so a full IR alignment is required. So we go to nav. Now, important to notice here, IR1, IR2, IR3. So left side, right side, centre. Okay, important. We do them in order: IR1, IR2, IR3. Now what that's training us to know is where IR1 and IR2 are, because should something go wrong and you're actioning a checklist, you need to be able to instinctively go to IR1, 2 or 3 in the darkness, possibly under duress. But the point is, you need to do this in order every time so you learn where they are subconsciously. Because IR3 is in the middle, not IR2, not 1, 2, 3. It's 1, 2, 3. Alright, we've stressed that enough. Train yourself the correct way. 1, 2, 3, and you'll do it without realising it. Right. Now we come down to exterior lights. Strobe goes to auto. Nav logo goes to 1. And everything else can stay off. Signs. So we're going to turn our signs on. So we're going to go, we'll come back to the seatbelt sign, but no smoking sign goes to auto. Emergency exterior lights goes to arm. We leave the seatbelt sign off until fueling is completed. We haven't conducted refueling yet, but for the purpose of this we'll do our refueling. Check how much fuel we need to get to Fort Lauderdale. We want 10.7 tonne to get to Fort Lauderdale, so we'll go get that happening so we can say the fueling is complete. did that thing was telling me. So let's roll up 10.7 on 6 will do, set that, and remove the fuel truck. Check on our page that we have our fuel. 10.7 is there. And we can turn our seatbelt signs on. Okay, moving along. Probe window heat. Probe window heat push button, check it's an auto. So that is on. That is auto. So no light. Cabin pressure elevation knob, check this one here. It's got to be an auto, which is a detent. Hear it click. Click. Auto. Auto. We hope. We'll zoom in on it and make sure I don't play with it. Oops. There we are. Just scratch the shit out of the window there by running a wiper on the dry windscreen. So auto, not auto, auto. And air conditioning pack flow selector as required here, so we come back and check that again. So we go to low if the number of occupants is below 141, so there's your number there of passengers. And high for abnormally hot and humid conditions, and normal for all other operating cases. And we tell us here if the APU is supplying pack controllers, select high flow automatically, independent of the selected position. So if we're using APU bleed, that doesn't matter at all. Electrical page, so we're going to check here, so electrical systems. Check that all the white lights are out as usual. And we accept the amber fault lights here for Gen 1 and 2. That's normal for them to be on, and we want them to be on. So now we're going to test the electrical system here. So we go to electrical page here, bring that up, pop it out, and we'll go up on the overhead here. So what we're doing here, it's initiating a charging cycle of the batteries anyway. And we're going to check how good the batteries are at accepting the charge too. So these are our batteries here, battery 1, battery 2. External power is provided in the aeroplane. And what's it tell us to do? Electrical push button, press. Oh, that's telling us to bring this page up. Battery 1 push button switch and battery 2 push button switch, off then on. So off, then on. Watch that goes, X is out, and look at this. The batteries are charging. And the numbers here didn't change much, but they're important because if the charge of at least one battery is not below 60 amps, wait until the end of the charging cycle for the batteries and perform this check again. So what we're checking here is that, so 10 seconds after setting all bat switches on, check on the electrical SD page that the current charge of the battery is below 60 amps and isn't decreasing. They were at 8 amps. I think we need to test again. Check these amps, 5 and 1, 3, and is decreasing. Anyway, it'll be decreasing probably because we did it twice. Rewind and have a look. There you go, decreasing. Yep, not charging anymore, life is good. So that's what we're testing there, that the batteries actually have a healthy life and they're accepting charge. Up the fuel panel here, we just turn all the fuel pumps, lights to... We'll take the white lights out, fuel pumps to auto. And now we get up to our engine fire test here. So go back out here. Same thing as we did with the fire test, except we're checking for one more light here. We've got the fire warning lights down here we have to check. And we're going to check the ECAM as well, make sure that it's the right one. We're going to get our warning here, we're going to get a continuous repetitive chime, we're going to get the red lights on down here, and we're going to get the squib lights, agents 1 and 2 as well. So we'll test the fire left. All the lights come on. Master warning goes off, we get engine 1 fire, and you can see down near the engine mode selector that we've got the fire going off there as well. One side, and we test the other side. There we are, all done. So it's engine fire test. So get rid of that. Back to here. Now we just run our scan up here, make sure there's no white lights here. And we'll get to this switching panel here. You want this one to be released, so the CVR records the PAs in the cabin. Continuing up as well, we get to the maintenance panel, you want no white lights here. Pilots don't touch this maintenance panel here, so if there is a white light here, straight away call the engineering. Something is broken. Now we come down to the center instrument panel, we check that the ISIS is aligned. adjust the brightness, set the QNH as well. Clock, check that that's right, check that it's on GPS. There's no reason why it should be anything but correct. It's usually pretty good. Then we go to nose wheel steering, check that the this nose wheel steering switch here is in the correct position. Wrong button, sorry. So we check this position here is in on, not off. Then from there we go down to our pedestal. Audio control panel, check that. Make sure it's set up how you want it. This is preference there. Cockpit door, we test the cockpit door. We can't really do that in this because I don't think it's even simulated. Let's see if it's simulated. Apparently it is. So cockpit door's open. Alright, this is cool. Let's have a look here. See if we can do the cockpit door test. So cockpit door's open. Should be able to unlock it here. While it's open we test the lights. So it should be strike lights. So we put this to test. Go to the overhead panel. And we should have oh no, we're upside down again. Oh dear. Rookies everywhere. Alright. So we've got these strike lights somewhere. These ones here. So strike lights top, middle and bottom, they signify if the door, they're each little bolt for the door. So we test them, check that they illuminate. That's all we have to really check there when the door's open. Turn that back off. Shut the door. And we should be able to unlock it. Which way is that way there? And that should open it as well. And we should be able to just pull it open there without turning it. Yeah. Who knows? It's a mystery. Anyway, test the door. That it locks is the important thing. Right, down to the switching panel. These guys here, make sure they're all in norm. You can see it says switching panel there. Everything has to be in norm there. Engines, thrust levers are idle. So they're up here, that's wrong. Make sure they're in idle. Engine master switch is off, which should already be as well. Engine mode select, sorry, engine master switches, these guys are off, and the engine mode select should be normal as well. Parking brake, check the park brake again. Same check as before, second person's doing it. And gravity gear extension handle, this one down here. Check that it's stowed. I'm going to try clicking it. Yeah, that one there. Oh no, don't wind yourself 3 times. Alright, so in theory what that did was extend the landing gear. Emergency ways, so gravity extension. Let's just hope that that didn't break anything. ATC panel, this one here. We set this to whoever's flying, left side, right side. Sorry, left side, right side. Set TCAS to above and make sure that's in standby. Altitude reporting should be on, and this should be in standby at this point. And here we'd set the code depending on where you are. Where I fly 3000 is the standard code we set when we haven't been assigned a code yet. And the radio monitoring panel, we check that there's no green nav light. So this one here, just want that one to be turned off. Checked comm frequencies, and the selector light here, which is this one, should be off. So you're on, this one's on VHF 2, this one's on VHF 1. So you want this yellow selector light to be off. And then we get to nav charts. We prepare our nav charts at this point, and then we go to the FMGS preparation here, which is down here. So this is where you go through and set this one up here. So we got Chicago to Lauderdale, JetBlue 133, and we go through and start setting it up at that point there. So that's sort of beyond the scope of what I want to do in this video, but you can see what we're doing here. So now we should have the IRs finishing their alignment. They shouldn't be too far away. Map's not available. GPS is lost. That'll all sort itself out. And then we're ready to set up the FMGC. So say we've done that. We sort of need to do this to move on, so we'll do a little bit of it anyway. We'll just set the initial page up, so we'll set our cross 30. I do have a flight plan for it, so we'll flew out as per the flight plan. Cruise level 350. And it could be a tropo. It's reset itself. Alright, let's do that again. Okay, cool. we can check. Have a look at this here as well. This is the IRS NIP page. You can go and see what it's aligning itself on. So this is the reference for Chicago O'Hare. This is our GPS position. Now GPS position is accurate. The O'Hare reference is the actual aerodrome reference point, which is going to be slightly different. So we've got similar latitude, but the longitude is wrong. And you can see it tells us how to adjust it with these ones here. So we can adjust, so see these arrows? Not the way, of course. See if I go up and down here, I can change it. So I'm going to change that to 58.8. Go over this one, and change that one to 54.6 as well to match the GPS position, because that's going to be more accurate. So this is our reference position here, so 48.51.8, sorry, 41.58.8. 87.54.6, make sure they match, then we click align on reference, confirm align. That's going to tell IRS to align to that position. And you can see IRS 1 aligning on ref, and it's going about its business. So I'll put our flight number here, JetBlue 123. Oh, for God's sake. Yep, I moved the flap lever by typing. Pull that back up. So it's just telling us that, hey, hang on, you've selected flap 1 and the flaps haven't moved. Life shit. Clear that. I've just ruined it. But anyway, we'll clear all that away. ECAM handling is a video for another day, so ignore what we just did there. So back to the IRS here, we want JetBlue 123. So I typed in JB 123 before and that put the flaps out. So go figure, cost index 30, flight level 350. This is coming straight from the OFP. And where is my tropo? What format have I got this in? That's why it's in the unfamiliar layout. That's why I'm getting confused. So I normally use a EasyJet SimBrief layout because that's designed for an Airbus, and all the information you need up the top is very handy. So I'm just getting my new flight plan. There we go. What do we got here? Right. Career stamp -43. I knew I was forgetting something before here. GBS primary, life is good. Put that there. Is that going to work? No. Got to put the dash in. -43. Oh, we got it. I'm in a good one, aren't I? No. 43, please. Thank you. There we are. Cruise temp. And tropo is 48629. So 48629. I'm not going to bother putting a flight plan in, but I am going to bother putting the zero fuel weight in, because that's going to affect where we go with the video. So zero fuel weight here, 48.8, that'll do. 48.9. And the CV's 13.3, it's not going to like that. I'll put 10.8 in. Let's quickly set this one up. This is not how you normally set up the FMGC, so don't take this as gospel. I'm just filling in the points so we can move on with the video from here, because we need to be able to get this alive. I'll have to put a departure runway as well. Alright, now we'll do the performance page as well. Just putting arbitrary numbers in here. Ignore these. All I'm trying to do is just get the FMGS set up so the buttons actually do the right thing when I want them to. So now we get to the glare shield. So we've done our FMGC. Let's say that that's done correctly. Glare shield. So we're checking everything set up here. Flight director's got to be displayed. Set our QNH, which here is 1014. Select constraint. Select arc and select range of 10. Select your VORs on, or ADF if you're using them, but normally it's just VOR, so they're displayed down here. So if you turn that back, so that disappears from the corner there. And it goes there to be an ADF number 2, but we want VORs. Right. FCU speed map window. It's got to be dashed. Heading VS FPA orbit, it's got to be in heading VS. So this says heading VS. It can be track FPA. We want heading VS. And the out window is we set to the initial expected altitude clearance. So I don't know what it's going to be. it's going to set 5,000. If I knew O'Hare a bit better, I'd probably be able to set the expected altitude. Now we do an oxygen mask test, so you radio downstairs to let the ground handler know that you're going to do an oxygen mask test. I wonder if this is actually going to work. So you set that to interphone, set the intercom up, and you want the loudspeaker up, and you should see if this is going to work. Push this test button here. Yep, when you hear that, that means it's working. There is more to that. Oh, now we've opened the window. We're doing well here. Go away. There we go. Right. So after that's done here, you can turn the interphone back off, because otherwise the people on the ground will still be able to hear you talking about them. And then you go to your ECAM oxygen page and check that you still have enough oxygen left in the system after doing your test. Then we check our instrument panels here, check our brightness. So this is where we said before, the brightness external up here. Put terrain on, it's not going to work. Oh, it does work now, good. So this brightness here affects the brightness of the terrain display and the weather radar. So say we turn this all the way down, and we're displaying weather, which doesn't work, but you could quite easily see, just because of brightness alone, we think there's no weather. So this is very important that you leave this one here in the brightest position so all weather will show up. And there, and then the brightness of the whole display can be changed here as well, but the relative brightness of the terrain or weather radar is very important to have at the most brightest setting. PFD brightness, you can turn that to set it wherever you want, and the loudspeaker at this point usually back to 1 o'clock position. Alright, then we go to the ECAM page here, and we check that. The cabin pressure page displays the landing elevation auto. So that's here, auto landing elevation. So that's going to take our landing elevation from the database, which would be for Fort Lauderdale, which would be pretty close to sea level, I imagine. And then we clear that, and then we press our status push button. Because I've broken it, there's actually status here to display. And check that the INOP system display is compatible with the MEL. I've broken the airplane, so let's go with yes it is. I should be able to overcome that with the hydraulic pump, so let's see what happens. So because I selected flaps before, it said, hang on, I don't have power to power your flaps, why the hell did you do that? And it got an error, so select flaps 1 plus F, and retract. Green indications, green indications. System 1 fault there, so we'll clear that. I'll go back to our status page. Yep, that's fixed it, everything's normal. Turn that back off. Alright, so back to normal here, nothing on the status page. So we fixed that. After that, the ADIRS, we check that the IRS is aligned, and then on the position 1 of the page, check that the IRS are in nav. So we go to here, data, position 1 of the page, IRS should be in nav, which they are. Excellent. And then we go to a takeoff briefing. At this point here, the guy will be back from his walk around, and you can actually take off briefing, which is outside the scope of this video again. And that's sort of how we do our cockpit preparation. And from here we go onwards out of the QRH to the next part after the cockpit prep, into the before pushback or start, and there's a few other things to do there as well. That's pretty much how you get going from 0 to everything sort of working, and as you can see here we've got all our white lights out, we've got fuel on board, the IRS is aligned, we've sort of got the FMGC set up, we've got our FCU set up, we've got our nav displays all set up, we've got everything looking pretty good. So it takes a few times to get the hang of this set up down pat. You sort of can, even still guys that have been flying the airplane for years still refer to the checklist from time to time just to make sure they're ticking things off accurately and they're going the right sort of way, but definitely it pays to use the checklist which I provided you there and just work through everything. It's difficult not having everything simulated, but you can sort of see how things come together. And from this point here we'd finish up the loader sheet, we'd get an air traffic control clearance, we'd check our fuel, check all the flight plan waypoints, and get ready to push back, start the engines and taxi out and depart. As you can see, it's taken us so long, the sun started to set. There we go here. Thank you very much for watching with us here. It's been a pleasure having you on the Airborne Horse channel. Any questions, you can send us an email at airbornehorse@gmail.com. Follow us on Instagram, airborne_horse. And don't forget to follow and like our channel. Any questions, you can send them through. Happy to help. And thank you very much for watching. We'll be back next video and we'll have a look at some more systems for you with the A320.